Erev Tov, good evening. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this very special edition of Tuesday Night Learning at the Shar. Over the past months, we've focused on Shar members, on bringing forth and learning from the stories and the values of those who help make our community such a special and wonderful place. And this evening, we'll hear from and about the Goodman family. It's a family that strives for excellence and strives to bring others along with them, encouraging to give and to do alongside of them. And in the spirit of Passover's message of Higadat Levincha, you shall teach your child, it's gratifying for a community such as Shar HaShamayim to see these values expressed through the generations. We are fortunate that Shar HaShamayim has played a very important role in the spiritual life of the Goodman family, even going back to that Friday night so many years ago when Roz and Morris first met at the Shar. Shar history, present-day Shar, Shar 2.0, the future, all have the Goodman family's imprint on them. They're a family of values, of humor, of good friendships for which our family is so grateful. We are in for a treat in the intergenerational conversation that we'll hear this evening. And it's my pleasure now to turn it over to Mark Kaplan, who, in addition to sharing a family connection with our featured guest this evening, Mark is also co-chair of Tuesday Night Learning at the Shar and an important leader in so many ways in the Shar community and beyond. Please note that this evening's program has been pre-recorded to ensure the best viewing and learning experience for all of us. Erev Tov, and enjoy the program.
Good evening. This evening we are privileged to hear Morris, a prominent leader in business and community, in conversation with his 4 children, Debbie, David, Jonathan, and Shauna. I can only say that Morris is indeed a good man. Morris is close to his children, and they are close to their father and each other. I have spent a lot of time with the family. You see, our daughter Dana is married to Jonathan. From my perspective, the Goodman family is built on 4 pillars. The first pillar is family. They care deeply for each other and all those connected to them. Roz, of blessed memory, welcomed Judy and me and our whole family into theirs when our kids tied the knot. She insisted that from that day on we would be included in all family events. The second pillar is their strong work ethic. Their success in all their endeavors is a result of hard work and dedication. Roz and Morris set the pace, and the rest of the family followed. The third pillar is giving back to the community. Their philanthropy is renowned, but it's even more than that. They dedicate themselves to the causes they support. The fourth pillar is their love of Judaism and Israel. I am honored to give the floor to Morris in conversation with his children. Thank you.
Hi, Dad. How are you?
How you doing, Debbie?
Good. It's nice to see you. So I'm going to ask you some questions about family life. So your parents were hardworking Russian immigrants who came to Canada during the Depression. How did that influence you?
They came in the Depression with no money, nobody to help them, and they had to start from scratch. How did it affect me? It affected me to be cognizant of the problems that newcomers have when they come to a new country. That's number one. Number two, they had to work hard. They had to learn a new language. They had to forget the misery from the country that they came from. All these things spirited through the house. You don't forget your background as you grow old. It goes with you throughout your whole life.
How did being a first-generation Canadian shape you?
It made me appreciate the hardships that newcomers have when they come to a new country, when they don't know the language, they don't have a trade, they're coming on their future. And also affected my feelings towards Russia and Ukraine.
Describe how it was going to school at the University of Montreal to study pharmacy at the age of 17. What obstacles did you have to overcome?
There was no problem going to the university. The custom at that time was that we had classes in the morning, but in the afternoon and nights and weekends, we had to do what we call a stagiaire, and we had to work in a drugstore. And of course, I worked at Winrose Drugstore, and that's where I began my business life as a message boy.
I didn't know that. How did being at the University of Montreal influence your relationship to people outside the Jewish community?
It did not influence me at all. I had the same feelings for all people, all colors. It had no effect.
Did you know non-Jewish people before you went there?
Yes, of course. We didn't live in an isolated village.
What was Jean Coutu like as a student?
He was very social. He was a good student. I was a better student. But in the marketplace, he succeeded far more than I did. So I ask you, which one would you pick? To be a better student or be a better entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur. I'm a better student, though. Did you encounter any anti-Semitism at University of Montreal?
I did not encounter any anti-Semitism from the university itself, but I did have one episode in our first year pharmacy. And one of the courses, the professor gave an exam, and I got 100. But most of the class failed. So he came back and he said, listen, I'm going to count the first exam for 50%, and I'm going to give you another exam, which will count for the other 50 exam. On the second exam, I got 97 and not instead of 100. And I just didn't know where I lost my marks. So I went up to the professor and I said to him, you know, I thought I had a perfect paper. Can I see my paper? I'd like to see where I lost the marks. He turned to me and he says, you people are never satisfied with what you get. Well, I didn't answer him, but I can tell you, I don't want to tell you what I said to myself under my breath.
Daddy, tell us about how you met Mommy. When did you know she would be the one that you would build your life with?
My father died in 1959, and I was saying Kaddish for him during the year. During that period of time, I found out that Rabbi Shushat at the Shar Shamayim is having a special Friday night Oneg Shabbat for young people, and I decided to attend. After services, there's a social gathering, and I saw Mommy. She was a beautiful blonde, and I went over to her and I asked her name, and she said, my name is Rosalind Drucker. So I said to her, Drucker, did you ever live on Wiseman Avenue? She says, yes. She says, then she becomes curious. And then I say to her, was it 770 Wiseman Avenue? She says, how do you know all that? And of course, now she really got excited. So I said, I was a message boy at the local drugstore. I must have delivered your diapers to you, or your mother gave me a good fat tip. Anyhow, Then I started to ask more questions, and we spent the evening together talking. Well, to make a long story short, we decided to get married 2 years later.
How did she influence you during your marriage?
Her personality is more outgoing than mine. She's smart. She's interested in many other aspects of life that I was not interested in because I immersed my whole life into pharmacy and medicine. And she was fun to be with.
After suffering a great loss, you were fortunate to connect with Lillian. What has it been like starting over in a new marriage in your 80s?
After suffering a great loss, you become very lonely. Lillian and I hit it off the first date. Lillian's personality is very, very similar to Mommy's. Outgoing, very smart, go-getter, and friendly. I liked her children and grandchildren, and she liked mine. Lillian and I feel that we are good examples to our children and grandchildren, that life can go on, and that you can fall in love again and find happiness.
You always do things with purpose in your life. What was your philosophy about raising a family?
Well, Rosalind was the only child, and she was lonesome. She would have wanted siblings, but that didn't happen. And I wanted a family. There was no reason not to. So we started a family very early. And of course, Debbie, you should know that you were at her graduation at McGill for her bachelor's degree. So, and then she thought you were so pretty, she wanted more. So she had a David come. And then with David, well, he needed a brother. He needed somebody to play with and maybe fight a little bit with. So Jonathan came along. And then, of course, since you were the only girl, we had to balance the budget. So we
You
got
ordered another girl?
little Shauna.
Why did you send us to JPPS in Bialik?
Because I wanted you to have a Jewish background. I wanted you to know something about your heritage. I wanted you to learn from the rabbis and the history of 2,000 years and how it would shape your life to be a good person.
That's great. Happy for you. And that's the end of my questions.
Hi, MG.
How you doing, David?
Very good. Got a few questions for you this afternoon.
Great.
Now, these are questions about your career, and there's only 6 of them, but let's see how it goes. I guess the first question I wanted to ask you was, what is the business achievement that you're the most proud about?
Well, obviously it's pharmaceuticals. Starting at the age of 52, and it's still going. Can't be a happier camper.
The best things are the things that came out the latest for you?
Yes, absolutely. That's why I want to live longer.
What part of pharma science's culture do you think is most aligned with your own values?
The way we take care of our employees, the social services we supply, the atmosphere of a family company, and I think the employees enjoy coming to work every day.
That's for sure. We can't wait for them to come back when COVID is over. That's for sure. Yep. So, if I may ask you then, what do you think is your greatest then source of inspiration that has you coming back to work all the time, at age 89 plus?
The sense of creativity, being there, trying to create a better company, more advanced scientific advancements. I see them coming along. They are very, very stimulating for me. It's been my whole life.
So then let me ask you then, how much do you think hard work contributed to your spectacular success versus luck?
The rabbis had a word for luck in Hebrew. It's called mazel. And they applied the letters of the word to things that happen. For instance, mazel, the M stands for makom, being at the right place. Zvayin is zman, being there at the right time. Lamed is lilmod, to understand, to have the knowledge. The three together create the mazel that we all seek.
So, seeing how creative you are, if you bring it back into what work activity do you like spending the most of your time on?
Business development, looking for new drugs, understanding how medicine has changed since the time I was a youth, and what the new technologies that are coming out are just mind-boggling to me.
So have your work interests changed over the years or
Not
stayed
at
more or less
all.
the same?
Not at all. Not at all.
Interesting. So have you helped and mentored many others?
I've mentored a lot of people, a lot of young people. We have hired at Pharmascience young students just coming out. Sometimes I'd had friends of ours call me, will you give my son a job? Or we know somebody. And we start them off very slow, low paying jobs. And as they work themselves up. And I'm pleased with my success story with a number of people. The greatest, I guess one of the greatest happiness that I have is I get a call, it's got to be maybe 40 years ago, from Jayas, that there's a newcomer coming to Canada, and he's from Russia, and he wants a job, and he needs a job. Morris, will you see him? I was very small. Anyhow, I said, yeah, I'll see him. Comes to me, I liked his face. He says to me, I want to come and live in Canada, and I need a job. I says, I really don't need anybody, but I'll give you a job as a clerk at $35,000 a year. He says, I'll take it. To make a long story short, he's still with us. He's a very happy camper. He has a son who's an engineer, brought up in Canada. His wife is a PhD. She also works for us. She worked at the University of Montreal. He is still anxious, going to work every day. What can you say? We're happy with the results. It's tremendous feeling of success and satisfaction.
Well, great stories, MG. I'm so glad you gave us this time to share them with us.
You're welcome, David.
Hi, Dad. I hope you're having a wonderful pandemic.
How you doing, Jonathan?
Good, thanks. Good. everyone is healthy. I have a series of questions that I'd like to talk to you about, and if you don't mind,
I'm
you ready?
happy to hear them, and hopefully I know the answers.
Well, well, you've lived your life with the answers. So my first question is, why are you a Zionist?
I'm a Zionist because I know the history of the Jewish people and the history of all minorities, that if they don't have a base of their own, a country of their own to protect them and to take their interests, they'll fall into trouble. It's the whole history of mankind.
Do you think it's romantic of you to have taken Mommy on your honeymoon to see Eichmann on trial?
I did not take Mummy on our honeymoon to see Eichmann. I took Mummy to Israel because I wanted her to learn about the country. We happened to be in Israel when the Eichmann trial was taking place. And of course, it's at a historic occasion. And we went to the old Knesset building where the trial was being held. And we went for a couple of sessions to see him in the glass cage.
What makes Montreal a wonderful place to raise a Jewish family?
Montreal is a wonderful place because it has the various Jewish institutions that are vibrant, that are active, that people attend, that people support with their charities. They get all sorts of Jewish education. We have a great Jewish library. We have history. And we have a freedom here where we could learn not only the history of Canada, the history of all peoples in the world, and that broadens our mind.
My question is, who is Eli Hurwitz, and when did you first meet him? And also, what was it like to do business in Israel?
Eli Hurwitz is the person that built the company called Teva Pharmaceuticals to be the largest generic drug company in the world. Eli Hurwitz was a hero in Israel throughout his life.
Why was he a hero?
What?
Why was he a hero?
He was a hero because he built the largest generic company that existed at that time in the world. He was a war hero. He participated as a tank commander in the Sinai War. He was chairman of the Bank of Israel for a while. And he was a go-getter, and he made a mark for himself both in the United States and in Israel.
What was it like as a child when you first hearing about the Holocaust?
The war started in 1939, and I was 8 years old. I used to sit 10 o'clock at night to listen to BBC World News by Edward R. Murrow, broadcasting to North America. My mother had her whole family still living in Ukraine, and her mother was still alive. Obviously, we had a personal relationship to the war, especially my mother worrying about her family. But we only learned what happened to my mother's family after the war. Her mother was killed by the Germans. Her eldest brother was recruited the first day of the war. He was a mathematics teacher, a professor at the university. They gave him a gun and he got killed the first days of the war. Her second brother, youngest brother, also went to war. The women, however, Stalin sent all the women from Kiev to the Muslim Asia countries, Pakistan, Tajikistan, and there they were saved because the war didn't hit those areas. Of course, when they came back to Kiev, they found out what really happened to their city, to the Jews in Kiev that were remained, and the general atrocities what the Germans did throughout Russia.
You ever regret not being old enough to fight in the war? I mean, you were only 8 when it started.
I never regretted that I was not in the war, but in high school I was an air cadet and I wanted to be a navigator. But thanks God the war ended before they needed me.
Interesting. Why is Jewish continuity important to you?
Because we have a message to the world. We
What's
have
the message?
education. We've contributed from biblical times to the world. Why do we want to disappear?
But why is it important? Why is it important that Jews are around 1,000 years from now?
Because they're contributors, they're drivers, they're looking for solutions to the world. It's the whole history of the Torah. Well, we also, the teachings of the Torah, be kind to your neighbor, love thy neighbor as thyself. We have a message to the world, and the world has never learned the messages, and most likely never will learn the messages. But we have to keep pounding away to make the world a better world for all people.
I'm just going to change the subject a little. How does it feel to have a daughter live in Israel?
I'm very proud of her. I'm very proud of my son-in-law. I'm very proud of the grandchildren that I have there. But I worry about them because is it secure as Canada is? No, it's not. So I have mixed emotions, obviously, but I'm very happy and I look forward to my next trip to visit them.
As do I. How do you want to be remembered, Daddy? What do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy is very simple. I want to be remembered as a good husband, as a good father, as a good grandfather, as a good friend, as a good pharmacist. What else can there be?
How about it being a good man? Are you a good man?
That's my name.
I know. Thank you. Love you.
Love you too.
So I'm really excited to be having this conversation. And I watched you over the years be a mentor to so many different people, just taking such an interest in people's lives and trying to make a little difference for them, whether it's listening or coaching or sharing some of your past experiences. Where did you first learn or see the power of mentoring in your life?
Well, I guess the first is the mentoring that I received as a young message boy, because I started as a message boy at about 10 years old. And how that happened was my friend or my cousin, who was a year older than I, got himself a summer job. And since Mendel can get a summer job, so can I. So I took my sister's bicycle and drove to the local drugstore and asked them if they needed a message boy. They said no, but they took my phone number. And as luck would have it, the message boy quit the next day. They needed somebody in a hurry, and they hired me. I got very well paid, 10 cents an hour. So, and that was the beginning of my pharmacy career. And of course, I stayed with the Winrow boys who owned the pharmacy for many, many years. And they mentored me in just general life, as well as especially in pharmacy. When I went into pharmacy school, I already knew many, many things that they taught at the university.
Did you ever speak to any of the deliveries that, when you would stop in people's homes? Did you ever have opportunities to talk with people, or was it just dropping off their pharmaceutical items?
If they didn't give me a tip, I wouldn't talk to them.
Fair enough. Okay, so what has been, in all your 89 years of life, what has been a meaningful moment in your life where you actually felt your giving making a difference?
Well, there are many episodes that I could mention, but I think I should dwell on two. The first one was Mummy's and I donation to the Agora, to the building of the Agora at the University of Montreal. One day I get a call from the dean of the university, and he says, I want to come and see you. He comes to the office and he says to me, Morris, I want you to consider to be the major donor to the building of the Agora, which will be the meeting place and part of the Faculty of Pharmacy. Agora is the Greek name for meeting place or marketplace. And in the olden days, the marketplace was called an agora, and where people went to do marketing, but also to gossip a lot. So I said to him, why do you come to me? He says, you're an influential person. People look up to you. I said, they are? I didn't know that. She says, don't you know that? She says, you're quite successful and we want you to participate in it. Well, I came home, I told your mother, and she says, do it, you have the money. So since she was the boss, I did it. And the Agora now is a meeting place for both the Cancer Center at the University of Montreal and the Faculty of Pharmacy at the University of Montreal. The Agora joins both buildings. One building, the Faculty of Pharmacy, is named after Jean Coutu, and the Cancer Center is named after his wife, Marcelle Coutu. I sit in the middle, joining the two buildings, and I make sure there are no fights between the two of them.
Well, I think you have a very significant role being the Shalom Bayit in their relationship right now.
Yes, we are very proud of his success, and he is very proud of my success. We remain friends from school, and his company is still one of our major supporters at Pharmascience.
Lifelong friendships.
Yes.
That's big. And you were going to say another moment that you were going to talk about.
And the other moment was the donation we gave to McGill University for the naming of the new facility for the Cancer Research Center, and it is now called the Morris and Rosalind Goodman Cancer Research Center of McGill University. And how that happened was we were asked to donate the money, and Rosie and I went to see the center. We met the director, Dr. Michel Tremblay. He showed us around. We went home. We were very impressed with the center, and we said we would participate. But the most important part of that saga, of that voyage, is the way your mother threw herself in to becoming the main supporter and fundraiser for the center while she was alive. That was her main focus for those years. She got all the volunteers, all the donors that helped her and helped us build and make it a world-class center for research. And they are finding things every day in the fight of conquering cancer. And we are thankful to all the supporters, all the donors, all the volunteers, all the researchers themselves, all the students that come and help. We're all on the same road to fight cancer and to find a cure for all the types of cancers for the whole world.
Well, I love that you always say that if you love your grandchildren, that you'll invest in research. That's your party line when you always speak about the importance of investing in research. And I think that's you, Daddy, that you don't just live for today, you live seeing the next generation.
I'm glad you remember it, Shauna.
I do. I hear a lot of MGs in my head all the time, and I'm still being parented every single day. So, back to the idea of L'Adore Vador, and that you are always thinking about the next and the next. I mean, it's just how you are wired. You're always thinking about the next idea, the next project, as you say, the pipeline of living. And you and Mommy created the foundation way back when, it was small. It was really just a machine to give, but it really wasn't as developed, I guess, as, when the users start playing in it, it starts getting more developed. And I'm wondering what your vision, where you sit today, is of the foundation and what you see for the next generation, for where you want us to bring it to.
Well, my vision is for the foundation should go on from generation to generation. That means that you do not deplete the capital in one generation, but you allow it to grow so that each generation can participate and be a philanthropist to the whole world. That is my wish.
And when you think about, philanthropist is a big word to grow into. And what do you worry about for the next generation? Where do you see us putting our attention? Is there something that,
I am sure that my grandchildren are learning from their parents the idea of philanthropy. The question is, what will happen after? Will they continue the process of sharing their wealth, whatever they have, with others who are less fortunate, and help cure the problems of the world? These problems will never go away. There'll always be new ones, and there's always a need for people of goodwill throughout the world to participate and to be cognizant and to share what they have with others less fortunate.
So another theme that comes up for me a lot is your sense of gratitude to being born in Canada. And having been born in 1931, life could have looked very different for you being anywhere else in the world at that time. And so I ask you, in terms of legacy and in terms of philanthropy, how important is it to you that we continue to stay focused in Canada, where, you know, life has been built for us? And also at the same time, I have fond memories. I have very, very strong memories of me waking up and you asking, what's the news in Israel? What's going on in Israel? At 6 o'clock, running home and putting on the news and only being concerned with what's going on with Israel. So I'm wondering, you know, you've been very focused on local, about being Canadian and the gratitude of growing up in Canada, and yet a sense of belonging to Israel and the people, and a greater peoplehood and a greater historical continuity. What are your words of wisdom as we hold on to this gem of a foundation and where our attention should be, and how to balance that?
I think we have to balance our life. We have two responsibilities as being born Jewish. One is to make sure that Jewish people survive. It is not only we're right now we're celebrating the holiday of Purim. That happened 3,000 years ago. The world has not changed, and the world most likely will never change. There will be good countries, there will be good people, and there will be bad people. We have to make sure that we protect ourselves because nobody else will. So, number one, and that is why I was concerned about Israel, because after the Holocaust, after the history of the world itself, we need a homeland to make sure that Jewish people, in this case, survive and contribute to the world and live a peaceful life. And this is not a lesson only for Jews, although we're talking about Jews, it's for all people in the world, because if you're going to leave it to strangers, there will always be somebody coming up who will be against and be cruel to their own people, to their own families. And this is what we must fight against, especially as democracies.
Well, I've loved this conversation, Daddy. I feel incredibly lucky that you are so clear and you're so amazingly at peace with so many ideas, and that you're so consistent. And it's a gift for me. It's a gift for all of us. And I miss you, and I can't wait to see you soon, hopefully, when the skies open up and they'll let our people go. And so I can come and be and continue the conversation.
And we want you here in Canada as well.
Well, it's as they say, chetzi of me, right? So chetzi.
Half and half, yes.
That's it. So Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So Daddy, how did it feel being interviewed by your children?
Wonderful. When I speak with you, I see our Friday night dining room table filled with you, your spouses, your children, enjoying the food, laughing, talking, singing, and especially singing the Zmiros at the end of the Friday night dinner. I feel so fortunate to be able to reflect on a life full of challenges and accomplishments.
Well, it's been great listening to you.
Is there anything you want to ask us?
Yes. What was it like growing up to being a Goodman in the Goodman household?
Well, we had a great childhood. We had a really happy home, and you and Mommy really embraced Jewish life in a positive way. Every holiday was celebrated with beauty and joy, and as you mentioned, singing. Shabbat dinners were a beloved ritual that provided structure to our week. And you were excellent role models that led by example. And I think by you repeating your stories about your parents' immigration to Canada and Mummy's family struggles with reversal of fortune and illness, and hearing the stories about employees at Winley Morris and Pharma Science coming to you with their struggles, you really instilled in us how fortunate we were to be born your children, to be born in Canada, and how much luck is involved in things, and that we have a responsibility to give back and have empathy and kindness.
I also think that you allowed us to be who we were, and we never got judged against one another. And as different as we all were able to be and develop in the way that we wanted to be. And I thought that was incredibly generous and supportive.
Daddy, in the Mission of Torah, Maimonides spells out 8 levels of charity, where giving where the donor asks is number 6 of 8. Why was it important for you to be recognized by University of Montreal for your beautiful gift to build their Agora, and by the McGill Cancer Center to be named the Goodman Cancer Center? Why was it important to you to be named?
It was a big step, and it taught me that it was okay to get out of my comfort zone and to try to help create something new. It makes me proud to see that each of you are making a contribution in your own philanthropy. Mia and David took over the mantle from Mummy at McGill Cancer Center. Dana and Jonathan are doing so much for Jewish education at Herzliya and Ort. Debbie and Jerry are involved with Cornell University and in the art world. And Shauna and Todd are involved in all sorts of philanthropy in Israel, from Leket, feeding the hungry, to introducing the new initiative, summer camping for youth in Israel.
And Daddy, is there anything as we're coming to an end that you want to say to your grandchildren?
Yes, find your own prescription of leading a good, healthy life. Share your blessings, both those that have been given to you and those that you will create yourself.
Can't wait to see you.
Yes, we're getting closer.
Virtual
Closer. Well, we have one step forward. We have one shot, one vaccine shot.
Lots to look forward to.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Shauna, you'll be here for the summer.
Absolutely. We need family time.
Well, MG, you started something that we're so proud to continue in our generation and the next generation. Thank you very much for giving us such a great start.
Good evening, everyone. Well, the movie theaters are back open here in Montreal, but not at this hour of the night. No matter, because tonight we all were treated to a major motion picture, a family story called A Few Goodmans. We are so fortunate that these good people are members of our Shar family. Their inspiration stretches from here in Montreal to New York, all the way to the Holy Land and back. Tonight, we were blessed to see all of the generations of these good people in all of their glory. And so it is my honor to fet them, to celebrate their accomplishments, to indicate our love for them, with a prayer for the generations, Lidor vador nagid godlecha. With every subsequent generation, we will sing their praises, we will celebrate their accomplishments, and we will always remember that they are part of our Shar family. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to the Goodmans. Please enjoy this selection from the Shar Shemayim Choir and myself with love. Lidor vador, lidor vador, lidor vador, nagid godlecha, u'netzach netzachim, u'netzach netzachim, kedushatecha nakdish, lidor vador, lidor vador, lidor vador, nagid godlecha, u'netzach netzachim, u'netzach netzachim, kedushatecha nakdish, v'shirchacha